It's the future, and you're walking down a dark street when you turn a corner and you come across an ancient tree that was planted there 1,000 years ago in the year 2024. What would it be like to live in a future that tends 1,000-year-old trees? What would be their relationship to time and their sense of responsibility to the future? It seems to me that a lot of our cultural narrative has turned dystopian over the last few years. And I've come to believe that in order to cultivate better futures, we need to be able to imagine them. My name is Dustin Bajer, and I belong to a group in the city of Edmonton that is trying to foster long term thinking and responsibility by uh, propagating, distributing, and tending 1,000-year-old trees. We call ourselves the Secret Long Tree Society, though that's a little bit cheeky. We're pretty open with what we're trying to do. And in fact, we'd love to invite you to be a part of it. We spend a lot of time hanging out and having conversations around the philosophy of planting 1,000-year-old trees and how we might actually be able to practically do it. It's a pretty interesting thought experiment that we're trying to make a reality. For a little bit of context, we're in Edmonton, which is the most northern city of a million on the continent. We have a pretty extreme climate ranging from minus 40 degrees Celsius in the winter to plus 40 in the summer, which somewhat limits the species that can live for 1,000 years here. The two that we've been looking at are ginkgo biloba and the Rocky Mountain bristlecone pine, Pinus aristata. In my hand here, I'm actually holding 1,500 uh, bristlecone pine seeds, each capable of living for more than 1,000 years. So if my math is correct, that represents about 1.5 million years of growth. And we've been putting together different kinds of resources to support this project, including step-by-step propagation videos. And so we distribute our seeds locally and we get folks to grow them out. And their names are attached to those trees as the propagators. A big question, obviously, is where do you plant a 1,000-year-old tree? One strategy might be to find spaces in the city that are likely to go untouched, but we're also interested in finding locations throughout the city that are expected to see lots of change, and perhaps these trees could actually act as anchor points to remind us of, the bigger picture. And so this is actually a photograph from this morning. When taking a look at a lot of the trees that we love here in Edmonton, we've realized that most of them are attached to specific people or places or events. And so, in short, the trees we love have stories, and they're kind of a reflection of the people that plant them and the people that tend them. And so, an interesting question for us is, what story are we telling ourselves about, with the trees that we're planting? Uh, I love a long-term project like this. Like, I love a project that I'm never going to see the end of, which, I mean, sort of alleviates a lot of pressures in some ways, but also it allows you to do some really interesting things. Like, we've been playing around with the idea of hosting a 1,000-year birthday party for some of our trees. And in order to do that, we're thinking about handing out tickets as people get their 1,000-year-old seedling. And if you show up in 1,000 years with your ticket, you're in. Or what if we could take a couple dollar donation for each tree, and we could put that into an endowment fund, and we could let that accrue interest for 1,000 years? How could that support the trees? How could that support long term thinking projects in the future? Stuart Brand has this great saying that long term thinking is the opposite of long term planning. And it's true that we're planning on, planting 1,000-year-old trees, but the the further into this we go, the more we've realized that it's less about the trees and it's more about cultivating the kinds of conversations and the culture that is necessary in order to propagate better futures. And so I encourage you to think about the kind of future you'd like to propagate and start something ambitious and quirky and weird that is beyond what you're capable of doing now, because it's worth it.